All right, fellas, another Prep Coach podcast about to go down. How you all feeling?
Good, man.
I am fantastic, man. Very excited for this weekend, actually. I'm really looking forward to Sunday's show.
We've got ICN Ballarat this Sunday, right?
Yep.
How many you got in it?
3.
Oh, awesome.
3, which is exciting. And we're heading up the night before. So myself, Meave and Bree will stay there the night before. Wake up nice and fresh. Where's there to train, Ballarat?
I don't know. There is definitely some good gyms there. You just have to have a look.
Just suss it out.
Yes, yeah. It's going to be good. It's a new venue now, so I'm looking forward to see how that goes. And I had a look at the comp list, the competitor list, and it looks like bikini's the biggest. It's got 13 competitors, so that's going to be a really, really interesting lineup. And I know we've got a couple of people in it, so
yeah,
we're looking forward to it. So we've got some good questions, but what I want to start off with is we've got some podcast-related questions, we've got some rapid-fire questions, we've got some questions about us. So let's get started on that. The first question that I got was, will you ever do a podcast meetup? So we kind of spoke about this, and I think we have to wait until the season's done because we're all pretty much flat out. But yeah, definitely we want to do a meetup, probably do a couple of meetups, pick a gym, let everyone know, and they can come down and train with us and meet us if they like. And because apparently we're famous now. What's so funny is we've been going to the shows recently. People have been stopping us like, oh, listen to the podcast. And we love it. Like, I love talking to you guys. So, don't be shy. Come up to us and have a chat, ask us some questions. And I have been, the people that have been talking to, I've been like, oh, have you been asking questions? Have we been answering them okay? They're like, yeah. You've been answering my questions, so it's really, really good to hear. And we do apologise if we don't get all the questions, but hey, if you want to pull us aside of the show or something and ask us a question, we're more than happy if we're not busy.
For sure, man.
Yeah, always.
So you guys came for a meetup, and have you had any people come to you at shows?
Yeah, man. I had heaps at AMB. It was freaking awesome. Actually at AMB, a couple of people came up to probably like at moments when I was really, really stressed about the running of the track. And it actually just like calmed me out and leveled me down a little bit. Just made me realize that, everyone's here to have fun and not to stress so much. So the feedback's been awesome, man.
That's awesome.
I'm definitely keen for a meetup. Obviously, like there's the opportunity to do it at multiple places. There's always my facility in Preston, Scotty's in Monty, or we can just pick a bigger gym anywhere in Vic where we can let people know and get everyone out. Maybe we can film some stuff too. It'll be awesome.
100%. That'd be awesome, man.
Everyone has to have dry oats with peanut butter that morning, but
yeah.
Make sure you deplete all your water and your sodium before you come.
And you can't get entry unless you bring a bottle of AM Light sweet chili sauce as like an offering.
Yeah, it needs to be donated to those that are in prep because everyone keeps taking it. And anyway,
we have a podcast group chat between the three of us. And we always talk about how our clients can't get this bloody sweet chili sauce because we keep mentioning it on the podcast and it keeps running out. So for the meetup, everyone needs to bring one, and that's going to be their entry fee.
Yeah.
Everyone's hoarding.
One of your superstars walked home in the rain with a box of sweet chili sauce from the post office.
Shona did, yeah.
Yeah, with a whole box of how worth it was to get home to open the box, even though you just got rained on and had to walk the whole way because you knew this was in it. Look at that. Look at this golden.
And she did the smart thing, right? She ordered it online and brought it online. So
that's how you're gonna have to get it done. There's got to be some way. We need to be able to reach out to them, and maybe they could be our first sponsor for the show. Because in all seriousness, I reckon there'd be at least 30 of my athletes on my roster that use that sauce, going through at least 2, maybe 3 bottles a week. That's 60 to 90 bottles. Plus, when I'm dieting, I'm going through at least 2 as well. That's like $300 a week. That's 15 grand a year in sales. And if you're doing the same, that's $45,000. The least they could do is just throw us a slab every now and then.
Even better, how about we just come up with our own sauce?
Whoa! Bombshell. This is the bombshell show.
Maybe we do that. We'll come up with some sweet chili. Maybe you guys that are listening can tell us what other flavors you like, and we'll come up with some low-cal sauces.
Yeah, we'll just.
Do you know what? I'm going to Bali. I'm going to Bali in a few weeks, and they're innovators. I should just take this bottle and just say, I need you to I want you to make this exact same thing, but I want you to make it for less than $3.50 or whatever it costs. I'm sure it'll be a third of the cost of what you pay for it. And then we can take it back. We can sell it at discount it, and we won't have to work anymore. We'll just live off.
And maybe we can just
the TMG sweet chili.
Yeah, we can put a photo of Trimboli's glutes on the bottle. That'll sell the
Mm-hmm.
Guys, hit us up. Should we bring out a sauce?
Yeah, we should ask that one.
Actually, Meav and I were talking today about, what's the next thing that we can do, to obviously we've got like A and B, the clothing brand. You just solved the problem. Freaking sauce.
Get them on the sauce.
Yep.
We also got a question about whether we're going to, who's our next special guest. So we had a fair few when we first started, and then we got into the Q&As, and everyone was loving the Q&As. But what I really want to do is, after the season's over, get some guests that we've had to review their season, like Alexandra, IFBB Pro, going to Olympia, have her back on, have Matty Orchard back on, because hopefully he gets his pro card this season. And we might even get some judges. I know MG spoke about getting the national head judge for A and B on, Jay.
Yeah.
We maybe get Vicky back on. We can get some judges, even some coaches that were really successful in the season. We can get them on, review the season a little bit, and then look at some other guests that we can obviously interview. Yeah. And you guys tell us too, like the listeners reach out to us and say, hey, can you reach out to this person? I'd really love to see what they're on about. And obviously we'll always ask for everyone to input their questions, and we can get their questions off everyone. So make us do all the hard work. Just tell us who you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving on, some other rapid fire questions. Are we all going to nationals? So ICN nationals in Brizzy. I'm obviously competing there.
Yeah, me and Scotty are sharing a bed.
What was that?
Me and Scotty are sharing a bed. Big spoon, little spoon.
Yep.
Head to toe.
Yeah, that's it.
So Scotty and MG will be up there too.
Yep.
With the clients, and I'll be also there with my clients too. And I'm also doing NBA nationals the following weekend in Brizzy. So I'll be up there for a couple of weeks. And then also the third weekend, which I haven't really spoken about, told anyone, but I'm also doing the Fitness Australia Muscle Mania show, which is in the Gold Coast. So I'll be up in Brizzy for 3 weeks, 3 weekends. Someone's looking after my house, so no one come and rob it, because there'll be someone there, right? So just so everyone knows. So yeah, if anyone's up there, if anyone's going to be at nationals, hit us up, come see us. I'll obviously be on stage competing, and we'll all be there. So yeah, definitely hit us up if anyone's going to be there. The next question was, am I excited for my second show, and what am I doing differently? So we kind of spoke about this on the last potty. So I'm sort of pumped and excited, because there's some refinements that I'm definitely doing, obviously, to my posing, and you boys have seen it. You saw it this morning. We did a little cheeky session at Powerhouse, at Scotty's Powerhouse, and we did some posing, and we went through some peak week strategies and how to tackle show day a little bit different, because Scotty was absolutely awesome and instrumental in post my show, giving me some strategies on how maybe I could peak a little bit differently, and me testing those out. And as you guys heard in last potty, that was really successful. So Scotty and I went over those today, and I'm really, really excited. And what do you guys think? You saw me today. What do you think?
Can I just say it'll be something very, very different. What we saw today, the videos, I was on the verge of whether I was going to make that my screensaver or not. I actually put the photo in the group chat before from the video, but yeah, it's going to be very, very different look. He looked incredible, and albeit his legs were actually a little bit sore from the session that you pushed a bit of food in earlier in the week, and he got a little excited and just really sent it on the legs. And considering that they were a little bit inflamed still and sore, and they still looked how they look, I just think next Saturday it's going to be unleashing a wild beast.
Yeah. I think I made the comment. I walked in the door. You actually sent it to me 3 minutes before I rocked up at your joint.
Mm-hmm.
I ran from my car. I parked the car and ran up the stairs at Powerhouse. I would look like a little kid running up the stairs with his gym bag. And I think the first thing I walked in and said is, "Man, you look like you put on 5 kilos."
Yeah, I was like, you walked in, you were like, "Bro, you look awesome."
I couldn't wait to get up. I was literally, when Scotty messaged me your photo, I was around the corner. and I was having a dilemma of whether I should call, even though I was only a minute away, because I needed to really have to Google. But I'm like, no, I'm just going to wait. So I parked the car. If anyone's been to Scotty's, it's a car park across the road, so you can get 4-hour parking, and literally bolted from the car with my gym bag up Scotty's stairs like a baby, so I could run in and be like, bro, you look freaking huge. So yeah, it's going to be a completely different look, man. I'm actually looking at the photo now. I'm not going to put it up on the screen because I don't want to give it away, but it's pretty special.
No, let's keep it under wraps until you guys are going to have to come to the show.
Yeah.
So let's come to the show. ICN VIX next Saturday at Moonee Valley. I'm probably going to be in around about 9:30, 10 o'clock in Classic Physique. So come watch me, and I'll definitely say hello to anyone that's there, and I really appreciate anyone that is cheering me on for the day. And you can see the unveiling. If you're not there, you can stalk online. I'm sure there's going to be some content coming out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pumped for that show. And actually, it's the first ICN show I've ever done, because back when I completed 11 years ago, I did A and B. That was the bigger federation, and there was IMBA, but I just did A and B. So my first time on the ICN stage. Actually, the second time Vicky will be judging me, because she judged for A and B back 11 years ago. So it's exciting. I'm going to have friends and family there, obviously clients, you guys there too, and any kind of other supporters. So,
no, the last time Chimboli competed, podcast didn't even freaking exist.
Man, I don't even think Facebook existed. Like,
no. Everyone had the Nokia 2212s, whatever they were, playing Snake, waiting for people to get on stage.
Yeah. It was a long time ago. I'm old. I'll reveal my age. I'm 37 in December. So 40 plus is coming to me. Category's coming to me soon.
Well, I'm getting closer. I'm certainly closer to that one than I am to the 30s, though.
Yeah, that's right. I'm loving it. I'm loving it anyways. Okay, next question, really, really quick. Someone is looking for a new bikini coach for season B 23. Which one of us would be best suited? She is 52 years of age, so she's very young also, and she's on HRT. I'm going to throw you under the bus, MG, because I think you'd be the best. Tell us about your 50-plus clients that you have coming up in Ballarat.
Yeah, man. So it's actually super exciting, because the 50-plus division this season, I just had a look at the running sheet. There's 8 competitors in sports 50-plus.
Wow, for a regional show.
Regional show. So
wow.
So this goes out to anyone out there. Like, if you are 50-plus and it's something that you've always been thinking about, and you've been training for a long time and thought that maybe it wasn't possible or not for you, it would definitely be worth speaking to a coach. I think all of us have experience in taking, athletes who are a little bit older to stage. There's definitely a process that needs to be taken, but anyone can definitely achieve it. At the end of the day, as long as all of the variables are managed in the same way that you would take on any client, hitting stage is achievable. Are there certain challenges that we may face? Absolutely, but can it be done? 100%. So yeah, so if that's you, reach out to me, hit me up on socials, and I can definitely show you some examples of athletes in similar situations to yourself, and give you a little bit of a more in detail explanation as to what to expect along the way.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Next rapid fire question. What's the best way to get off comp tan? I would suggest you talk to the person that tanned you. They definitely have a protocol on how to get that off. If they're not receptive, then just DM a whole bunch of other comp tanning companies and just get a whole bunch of answers. I think that's the best way to do it, for sure.
Most of the tanners, for example, our tanning company use Midnight Tan. They'll normally have a solution that you can use. It's a specific tan remover. So don't just go and get, like, say, Bondi Sands tan remover. You can normally they'll have their own version of it, whatever the specific tan is, to help remove it. But regardless, it's not enjoyable. It burns the shit out of your skin to get it off. So otherwise, one of the best ways is to go and have a nice hot sauna and then a spa, preferably not at your own house, because it destroys it. And that will normally get rid of it. But your tanner will normally be able to tell you straight away.
Yeah, awesome. It's a process of exfoliation and warm water, bathing in warm water to get it off, and then potentially some kind of product to help.
Yeah, the other thing we'll say is, which MT did and I didn't do, right? So guys, because females, this will happen as a part of the process, but guys, your nails.
Paint your nails.
Yeah, put a clear coat over your nails. It took me 3 months to get the...
See, my nails are still shiny? Anyone on the video?
Look at that.
Shiny.
Man,
I painted them clear.
I went to Meath and I went to Bali, as you guys know, and I went and got a pedicure, right? And I sat down at the chair and I had Comtam still on my toes.
Wow, since season 8.
Since season 8, right? And when I sat down to the chair, the lady's like, "Oh, it's mushroom." I'm like, "It's not fucking mushrooms. It's Comtan from fucking 5 months ago." So guys, put polish on your nails. It just makes it so much better to get off.
I did it.
Yours are
toenails worked out perfect. I'm going to take it off and re-put it back on for the next show for sure. It's definitely an awesome idea.
Yeah, just quick fire adding question: Who's had manis and pedis?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I have. Yeah, awesome. Similar to you, MG, in Bali after a show.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Next rapid fire question: do you communicate with your clients on a daily? So, yes. The answer is yes. Obviously, if they're messaging, we're messaging back because I use a Facebook Messenger as my biggest coaching communication channel. So yeah, I'm in contact with my clients if they're asking me questions every single day. Obviously, mandatory, we have a check-in once a week. And I'll also hit some clients up that I know maybe need a little bit more communication or attention. And if they're in a peak week or, a couple of weeks out from a show, leading up to shows, it is really on a daily basis and sometimes multiple times a day. If coaches are using email or something that's not super receptive like that, then I'm just going to call it out. It's pretty old school. But yeah, so yes, I do. Do you boys do, right?
Yep, 100%, man. Yep.
Yeah, I typically send it. Everyone has their set check-in day, and they'll normally get they get their check-in email within 24 hours of their check-in. But there's also correspondence, again, at the back end of prep. Most of the time, like you said, it's pretty much daily. I'm in everyone's file every day to make sure that everything's ticking along. When you first start prep, it's maybe only a couple of times a week because there's less need, unless there's concerns in terms of your rate of loss and things like that. But at the back end, it's pretty important because it's constantly a moving target. So you need to be able to auto-regulate and adjust on the fly. Yeah.
Also, I do phone calls too. Like if I get a check-in that maybe needs a little bit more than just me giving them a verbal, a voice recorded response or things like that, because I do voice recorded responses, I'll be like, hey, let's just jump on the phone, because you want to ask some questions. You want to have a little bit more backwards and forwards, and to just do it through messages or voice recording is just not going to get the result you want. So sometimes like, hey, let's jump on the phone. So communication with your coach is like super important.
Mm-hmm.
Next question: How do you rate NBA to ICN? Were you happy with the show last weekend? So actually, last weekend there was both NBA and ICN shows. I had clients in both. So let's just talk about it. So like obviously, ICN and NBA have very similar categories. They have bikini, sports, and fitness. They have very similar subcategories too. So all the first timers, the mums, the 30s, all the age groups and things like that. It's probably more about the experience and how the show is run. Like NBA has an individual eye walk where you hit 3 spots and you do multiple poses, and then you come out and you get compared. And also the venues that I've seen that NBA hold them in, it would be more of a theatre style. You would call like a theatre style. Whereas ICN is basically you come out all together and you do your comparisons all together. There's no individual stage walk. And also the venue I would call more warm and cozy, where you feel like you're really close to the stage. And it's probably a little more interactive, if you want to call it that, because it's not a theatre where you're like watching a movie. You're actually there, and there's a lot of cheering, and you're really close to the stage, and actually you're really close to the judges. So it just depends on your experience. I rate them both. It just depends on the experience. I've had people that prefer not to do NBA because of their personality type. They don't want to do an eye walk. And I've had people that are the opposite. They want to do the eye walk. They want to shine. They want to show themselves off and have an individual time to do that. So I always say, and it's the same as A and B, like A and B has that similar vibe to NBA. And MG, you can talk to that. But I say do all of them and see what you like. And they also go for slightly different looks. I want to say, in my experience, NBA and ICN's looks are more similar compared to an A and B look. So that's why it's always good to go to shows, watch shows, talk to the promoters, talk to the judges, Send photos of yourself, get feedback if you want. I know they're very receptive too. And then just do all of them and you see what you like, especially if you're a first timer. 100%. What do you think, MG?
Yeah, I agree, man. Like they all have benefits based on the type of athlete I think you are and the type of experience that you're trying to get out of your competition journey. I definitely, like, since being part of AMB, I've been really enjoying the bigger theatre type venues.
Mm-hmm.
The ability just to sort of do a little bit more with lighting and obviously the crowd involvement. But yeah, I would agree with you 100%. Try everything, do everything, see what you like. And I think it's also a good thing that, not everyone wants the exact same look, because it means that there's opportunity for everyone to do well in different feds. So I like the diversity of it. And I would say, yeah, have a crack at everything and find your poison.
What do you reckon, Scotty?
Yeah, I agree. I think you don't know if you don't experience it. But coming from someone who's only ever competed with ICN, that's just purely because NBA wasn't around then. I would absolutely do an NBA show if I can next year, if it works out with dates and whatnot. With my plans, then I would definitely do it. I know for all my athletes, I've penciled in that as one of the three feds, obviously A and B, which is MGs, ICNs, and non-negotiable. And for me now as well, like NBA. I think Stu runs a great show. It's professionally run. I can't speak highly enough of it. I was really happy with how it ran on the weekend. It was pretty punctual. I like that there's plenty of room to pump up and to space out. And also like that as a coach, you can kind of go back and forth backstage. Then you can just walk down the ramp, watch your athlete, then knock back. Whereas obviously with ICN, it depends really who the backstage staff is. Some people are allowed back, others aren't. It depends how busy, which I get. But I think all three of them are great. But I think you should definitely experience them to just see where you're best aligned and also perhaps where your physique is best suited to. But typically, I think ICN and NBA are a little bit more similar in the sense of the look that perhaps they like. But all three are great.
Yeah. Actually, one of the questions that we got, not this week, but a previous week that we didn't get to was, do you have a good relationship with all the federations? And we do. And we think of it as like a partnership too, because we're essentially colleagues. We're feeding each other. We're giving them people to put in their show, and they're putting on good shows, and we're getting good feedback, and we help each other out. But this is an exclusive. I'm not going to give all the information out, but for anyone in Victoria, next year, those three federations are running big shows in our state. That's all I'm going to say for those three federations in both Season A and Season B. So there's some big shows happening. And also, too, is some of them are also utilizing some new venues, which are pretty epic. So this year's been amazing, but next year is going to be awesome. There's some really, really, really good things happening next year for sure.
Yeah, I think that question came to me last week about your relationships with the other feds. So because of my involvement with A and B, that all of a sudden I'm just going to not talk to Tony anymore or something. Like, if anything, it kind of gives me, makes me feel a little bit more connected, because I know what he goes through, puts on multiple shows per season. I understand, the stresses that he goes through now, and we absolutely still talk online and stuff. So I think there's more than enough opportunity for multiple federations to do well within a state. And I think as long as they're all putting out good shows and giving the athletes great experience, that there's no reason why everyone can't do well.
Yeah. And, as a promoter yourself, and I've spoken to all those three federations, we've got to connect, because we want to make sure that shows don't clash on dates. And we want to line our clients up so they can do everyone's show. And if they're clashing or on the same weekend, it's just a real pain. Like, last weekend we had NBA on the Saturday and ICN on the Sunday. Our clients had to choose. It's very hard to do a back-to-back and days. It's very, very hard. So sometimes our clients need to choose. So, it's always good for the promoters across the federations to communicate so they don't steal from each other's pocket or put, be a detriment to each other. They've got to help support each other and support the sport. So,
yeah, and there's only a certain amount of weekends per season, you know what I mean? So it's...
Yeah, and there's only so many that a coach can go to when they can't spread. They've got to spread themselves thin, It's a bit hard, for sure. Okay, continuing on. What's the difference between sports and fitness in ICN? Now, this is coming from a competitor that did an ICN show in New South Wales. and they did the They did the bikini division, and they said they're too developed. They should get a little bit leaner, and they should go into sports or maybe even fitness. So what's the difference between sports and fitness, they're asking? So some of the states are slightly, we're just going to talk about ICN. Some of the states are slightly different in the look. And Scotty, you were talking about that this morning. You know, Queensland goes for a little bit more of a leaner, harder look. Probably so does New South Wales, but I found that they do go for a more of a rounder, developed look. And then Vic's go for something in between. Not super, we're talking about across fitness and sports, not super shreds, but not super round. Now, the difference between fitness and sports is as you move from sports to fitness, it's more condition and a bigger and more muscle mass. Yeah. The only thing is that in New South Wales, only fitness competitors can do sports. And I think that's the same in Queensland. But in other states, in Victoria, WA, South Australia,
you get all the crossover.
Yeah, bikini can also do sports and fitness can do sports. So sports is essentially the middle of the two. Whereas in New South Wales and Queensland, it is more for a fitness competitor to go into there. So that's why you're always going to get a slightly different look in those states compared to in Vic or in other states to have that sports as a middle ground. But I will say this, I find that in a competitive show, in a competitive lineup, normally a fitness girl is going to do better than a bikini girl in sports.
Yeah.
What about you guys? What do you think?
Yeah, the same. I think the sort of little details that, you know, I look at it when I'm assessing someone for division is like capped outs, striations, non-striations, visible six-pack, non-visible six-pack, lined out quads. They're sort of the main things that I'm looking when I'm separating pretty much all three of those divisions, as well as overall level of muscularity. So you know, if you in your front pose can see, like, you know, lined out striated delts, all six of your abs are visible, and maybe you're just not as hard in the lower half, which is pretty typical for a lot of females genetically, then maybe that's where sports might suit you. So you might be a little bit harder on top, you've got a six-pack, but you're not quite as hard on the bottom, but you've got enough muscle. Maybe that might be a perfect sports look. Versus if you can get leaner in the bottom and have, you know, glute to hamstring tie-in, lines through your quads, then maybe you fit that fitness as long as your overall muscularity is right. Where in Victoria we get the crossover is like from bikini, is if, you know, maybe you're like perfect for bikini on the bottom. So you got, you know, a tiny bit of hamstring tie and a nice line on the side of your glute. You've got an oblique line, but you're hard as nails in your back because that's just how you shred. Then that's where you'd say, okay, let's do sports as well, because you might be a little bit too hard for bikini. So obviously, you know, your coach's assessment is going to be really, really important. But I suppose they're the main factors that, you know, I would be looking for when assessing which is the right division.
Definitely.
But at the end of the day, the overall muscularity is going to be, you know, the sort of base point for all of that, and condition.
I think too is the way the sportswear fits and is worn, it caters better to an X-frame.
Yep.
Whereas when you're wearing a bikini in fitness, obviously X-frame is important, but you can kind of get away with it a little bit more. It's just the way the sportswear fits the physique and how the crop top fits and things like that. If you've got an X, it really exacerbates it, and those people do normally really, really well. Yeah. What do you think, Scotty? Any input on that?
No, I very much agree. Yep, and I think that's why, to go back to the girl's question, for example, if you were competing, we were having this discussion regarding some of our competitors going to Queensland. If you're in either sports or fitness, I think being that it is up there, even though it will be a mixed panel, my approach is that I would rather come in harder than come in softer, because you're more likely to be rewarded, given that let's assume that there's going to be more Queenslanders in a lineup, then you'd probably be a little bit more, I guess, at home in that sense, versus if you look like you're the outlier because perhaps you're just a little bit softer. But yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to go up to Queensland for the Nationals and you're going to have a bunch of Queensland competitors, and New South Wales competitors, in sports, they're all going to be fitness competitors. None of them will be bikini because they're not allowed to do it. Whereas
That's right.
in Victoria, if you're a bikini competitor thinking of doing sports at nationals, you're probably going to be up against people that have more muscle mass and that are leaner than you. So when they look at that lineup, you might look out of place.
And for example, like let's say Shona and Amanda, who are both doing fitness, right? So they're both going to do fitness at Queensland.
So everyone knows Shona won A&B Fitness Pro Card recently, and Amanda won the overall fitness at NBA.
Yeah, correct. And Shona, correct me if I'm wrong, she's a sports pro, isn't she?
She's an ICN Sports Pro, yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, Amanda will jump in. She'll do sports and fitness. Granted, she's probably more fitness, but let's say that you're a bikini deciding between either two, and then you decide to go to Queensland. You're going to have two people, or let's say Shona's a sports pro, but let's say that you had someone like Amanda who is crossing over, who's potentially going to be in that conversation of the top tier in a fitness, and you're borderline bikini, then perhaps you're going to look a little bit out of place. So that's where it's probably a little bit harder, because then you're going to run into a Shona or an Amanda or someone of that caliber sort of in your lineup.
Yep.
But at least that way, and I don't know about you guys, but I had a look at the Tropics winners, the overall winners, to get some insight in terms of what look they like. Granted, their Brisbane show is this weekend. So again, that provides good feedback in the sense that you've got similar sort of winners that are taking out overalls. It's a look that they like. And that probably gives you some clarity around this is sort of where the benchmark is from where they are. And then it gives you some direction in terms of how to approach that peak, whether you come in super, super shredded. Again, I personally don't think you can really go wrong. I'd always rather come in over condition than under.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Next one. All your team looked incredible at NBA. What are you looking for when you pick a client? Is there a difference between males and females? So really open-ended question, but I might give it to you, Scotty, just to talk about difference between males and females, because you had a lot of males and you had obviously Amanda on a day. What do you look for when you're picking them? What's the difference? Now, granted, the example that you're going to give me is Amanda, and she was super diced. So
I was about to say, Amanda's probably not a good example.
There's got to be a difference, right? There's got to be a difference between Amanda's fitness overall physique and one of the other guys that looked incredible in men's physique.
Yeah, there is. And obviously the peaking approach, firstly, it's very much individualized. There's not a one cookie cutter fits all approach. There's some basic fundamentals pertaining to physiology in terms of how we go about it. But for the most part, we have a look that we want to achieve by the morning of, which we're able to do that. And then in terms of peaking that from there, it's just making little adjustments as the day goes on. So ensuring that they're hydrated, ensured that we've got complete saturation of muscle glycogen. And again, this isn't something that's done the day of the show. This has been done from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday as the week's unfolded. And again, specific to the category. So you mentioned obviously Amanda, she looked awesome. If I had, like, let's say MG, I saw, is it Elise, the girl you showed me this morning, and Bethany, for example, both look incredible. Let's use Elise for example. She's like bikini through and through. The approach that you would take to peak her, I wouldn't be looking for certain markers as I would with someone like Amanda, because they're in different categories, but B, different levels of body composition. So the adjustments that I would make for her wouldn't really come into effect and wouldn't really offer any much, I guess, improvement to the look of the physique for, say, Elise, just because physiologically it just wouldn't work like that because of where they're at in terms of their body composition levels. But hydration is one thing. You can tell straight away if someone's flat. One of the easiest biomarkers to be able to identify that is when they're pumping up in the morning. So typically I'll get my guys or girls, pardon me, before they consume their meal, a little bit of a light pump up. How did it feel? Take in a little bit of food, pump up. If they're like, wow, I pumped up straight away, you know that they're good. I'll always get photos, normally 3-4 times throughout the morning, at least twice before they're actually at the venue, so I can get an idea of where the look's at. So that at least that way we can make adjustments in real time, versus if I just say, eat this meal, do that, and then I'll see you at the venue. If they're super flat, then there's not much that we can do about it. If they're super, like, so let's say that they've spilled, then you'd obviously get them to pump up a little bit harder and perhaps try and, push out some of that water and obviously burn off some of that glycogen. But for the most part, it's normally, it's pretty simplistic. So I'd say hydration, making sure that obviously you're not doing anything outside the scope. Don't do things that you haven't put into practice throughout your entire contest preparation. That includes introducing foods that perhaps you're not familiar with. If you want to trial a certain food that you think might be advantageous, then perhaps try that a week or two before. Don't try it on show day and just say, let's shoot for the stars and hope that we hit them. But that's basically, you're assessing the look on a case-by-case basis and making adjustments as you need to. So things like injecting acute doses of sodium, acute doses of carbohydrate can obviously help to fill out. Sometimes it might be they need to take in a little bit more water. As we know, like, for example, in your case, MT, electrolyte balance is imperative in terms of achieving the look that you want to achieve. So making sure that those ratios are right. But that's pretty much it. I don't know if I'm just rambling here, but I think that pretty much answers it.
I think the comment that we're going to get from feedback after this is, guys, did you know that Scotty Morrell injects his sodium?
Inject the sodium?
He injects his sodium because obviously it gets into the blood sooner. The pump is tenfold, right?
You realise that's going to be the title of the podcast.
Injecting your sodium
on show day.
Hey, MT, can we just say your titles and like the way that you tell the story when you post a podcast has been, I can't wait for when you put it out and you post it. I just look to read what you put as the headlines. You've done such a good job with it.
It's actually one of my favourite parts. It is.
How to inject sodium. Yeah. Just to be clear, we're talking orally, so it's via a salt tablet. Okay. But you could use iodized table salt too. It's fine.
Yeah. So just on that, the other question I got was, what's the reason why glycogen stores are depleted when you have to fill them back up again for the show?
Well, typically they wouldn't want to be depleted the morning of the show, because if they are, you got a big fucking problem. But it's pretty rare that you would be, when we say depleted, I feel like people perhaps don't quite understand that word. So you store glycogen in the muscle and you store glycogen in the liver. So there will always be some element, there will always be glycogen within your body. It's very rare that you're going to run out of glycogen, but perhaps stores may be lower. So for example, let's say you've got someone who's in phenomenal stage condition. It doesn't, and this is another thing that a lot of coaches, I believe, perhaps do unnecessarily. It doesn't make any sense to run someone super, super low on intakes, because if you've already achieved the look that you have from a composition perspective, then all you're doing is sucking them down more and more and more. And when you've got someone that's super low, if you suck them down too low, it usually takes a lot longer to bring them back to life. And so what I mean by that is they're super, super flat. They can't get a pump. And the physique just looks stringy. You don't fill up, versus a muscle belly that has got complete muscle glycogen saturation. And there's no magic number. So it can be anywhere, depending on the human, anywhere from 300 grams to a kilogram in terms of how much you can take on. So let's say that you have a little bikini girl. She might have a threshold of say 300 grams. You could have someone like Big Zach, who's a power lifter who works with me, who's competing on Sunday, who would be probably over that because he's 125 kilos and he's a beast. So it's always going to be case dependent, but I don't want to run someone too low because obviously it's hard to bring them back to life. But typically, as a generic formula, you might run 2 down. I tend to, will usually run, if they're already in stage condition, 2 down. And then normally from Wednesday, we'll just linearly start pushing in more carbohydrate. And we use certain metrics. We obviously use photos. We use scale weight data as well. A lot of people will freak out and be like, oh my God, my weight jumped 600 grams. That's good feedback. And sometimes it may mean that, and again, depending on the athlete and the increase, because obviously if you've got a 60 kilo, let's say that we've got Woz who's 60 kilos versus say if it was, let's say that MT was 90 kilos, just in an ideal world, let's say you're going to have a huge off-season, bro, and you come back almost 20 kilos bigger.
Hey, does everyone want to know my weight? So I don't know if anyone knows, but I started off season or started comp 95, and the weight I'm tracking it now is 74.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy, but that's what I mean. So, okay, let's use you for example. Then, at your current weight now, I was going to make more of a discrepancy. Say it was 90, but say has an increase of, let's say 1%, 600 grams. Then there's a good chance that of that, obviously, a large portion of it's water, some of it's obviously food volume, and then we've topped that up. If we had someone that only increased, say, 200 or 300, or if it was you and you increased a kilo and you were, or maybe even more, ideally, if you're 90 odd kilos. That's what we would be looking for, because if you're still weighing in super low, it's not, oh, my body's just soaked it all up. It's a really good thing. We need to push in more. We should see an increase, provided the look is also an improved look, because it's not a scale weight competition. So we're looking to see, we want to see an increase, and typically it's going to be anywhere from 0.7 to say, to hold on, am I saying that right? Roughly, let's say if you're 70 kilos, 0.7 to 0.1% of body weight, somewhere within that range. Everyone's different depending on the size and how much muscle they carry. But you will typically know that through your scale weight data throughout your prep when you inject, again, poor choice of words, when you prescribe 2 or 3 day refeeds, periods at estimated maintenance. Sometimes you've got to push in a little bit more. But typically I would go 2 down and then start bringing food up. And then ideally, you want to be close to your threshold the day before the show. And then obviously perhaps just push in a bit more fat the day before so that those carbs are just slowly absorbed. And then you wake up on show day and all you have to do is push in a little bit of food. And then obviously you just fill up like a balloon, kind of like what we saw this morning.
Yeah. Hey, Scotty, on show day, can you tell me to inject some lollies? I don't tell you, hey, take these lollies, bro. Just like, can you inject these? Inject those snakes.
I want you to inject 25 grams of glucose via the Allen snake.
Yeah, I think the thing that people also get confused is like they think of depletion as like, why do you have 4 days at, I'm just going to make up a number, right? Why do you have 3 days at 400 gram of carb, and then the day before the show, why do you pull it back to 200? Why are you depleting? Well, that's not depleting. We've already achieved saturation, and now we're just trying to hold it. So I think there's a bit of confusion that people are mistaking that carb up and then back to baseline is not a depletion. It's actually a maintenance strategy.
Yeah. And also, for fat loss leading into the show and even your whole prep, you're supposed to be depleted, right? Like that's the point. You're supposed to be flat to get lean. If you're full of carbs all the time, you're not in a deficit, right? So, even saying I'm glycogen depleted, I'm leading into the show, I'm glycogen depleting, you've been probably doing it for weeks, right? So it doesn't really make a difference. I guess people just maybe go to some extremes, or maybe coaches sell it to their clients and use fancy things and fancy phrases to make it look like we're doing something this week, we're doing something special, we're glycogen depleting. So that's why we've got to drop your calories. They just want you to get leaner. That's what they're trying to do.
Are they injecting sodium?
They better inject sodium. It's the winning method.
And I will say the caveat to that is, if you've got someone that perhaps you want to run all the way up to the line, like let's say that you weren't as conditioned as you need to be, then perhaps you may need to, and I've had that before, and I've got that going on at the moment. I've got someone who we're going to have to literally roll all the way up to probably Friday, and then it will be an aggressive backload, which isn't ideal. But again, you've got to weigh up what's more important, getting leaner versus just being completely full. If you're not conditioned enough, then you don't even have to worry about trying to fill up, because you need to be lean to be able. You've got to get flat to get lean, and you've got to be super lean to be able to fill out.
Yeah.
So you can't do one without the other. So you've got to pick your battles, so to speak. But in an ideal world, we're ready early, and we have a methodology or a plan, which again is a moving target, and you need to adjust in real time. Majority of the time, there'll normally at least be 1 day throughout that 3 day linear load where we may have to push in a little bit more. And sometimes you might say, let's say that you overspill on a Thursday, you might need to pull back a little bit and then just keep fats higher on the Friday, so that again those carbs are just sitting there, and when you pump up, you've got the look that you want to get.
What's a bit tricky is, with this ICN show coming up next Saturday, what I'm doing is the bikini girls are on at like 6 p.m., 7 p.m. at night,
PM.
and 8 p.m. at night. So real late. So it's almost like a day has gone past. So even for peak week strategies for some of my girls next week, I'm only going to load them for like Thursday, Friday, because Saturday at the show, I'm probably going to keep loading them during the day, because they're going to flatten out. It's like a full day has gone past by the time they get on stage. So, sometimes when you start a load really depends on also when you're on stage too.
Yeah.
It all plays into part, because that's a tricky one. Like when there's a big show and they're on super late, you won't treat it like a typical show day, like if they were starting at 9 a.m. or 12 o'clock.
Yeah, because you're gonna have potentially 4 whole meals before you get on stage. Like,
yeah, you want to know your stage time, and you basically just reverse engineer it. So if I'm on at 6 o'clock, okay, we'd want to be doing this at 5 o'clock, this at 4, this at 3, and then basically you'd work your meals back from there. You typically, obviously, I don't have any bikini girls, but I assume that's how it would be. Like basically, like from 3, if you're on at 6, you're not really eating too much, so you don't feel like you have anything heavy in your stomach, but you want to get some food into them throughout the day so that they're well fed. In some ways, it's probably easier because you've got a larger window of time that you can bring food in and perhaps make adjustments when and if you need to.
Yeah. So, most of them are probably having a big breakfast. So they stay a little bit full, and you're not pumping food in right at the end of the day when they're supposed to be on stage and they're going to get bloated. You want to pump it in early, let it settle in.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Off topic for comp. People have noticed.
Can you hear that?
We can. Is that Evie?
Oh, yeah, it is, man. Yeah, she's waking up. She's going crazy. That's all right. We'll keep going. Otherwise, I'll go and get her, and then hopefully
bring her on the potty, mate. Bring her on the potty.
We'll get this question out, and if she still goes, I might have to do that.
Okay, real quick. I think it's going to be a quick one. Is some people have noticed that we use the term recovery diet and reverse diet for post-show. What's the biggest difference? For me, in my mind, and we've kind of spoken about this, recovery is something that you would use for someone that's super diced and super lean, and it's more of a rapid feeding approach post-show. Whereas reverse is probably someone that you use that's not as conditioned and lean for their category. It's probably more of a slower, non-aggressive approach. But I want to say that the word of reverse diet, and when reverse diet first came out, has changed since then. It was really like reversing what you did when you walked into the show, and 10 grams of carbs and 5 grams of fats every week, that kind of reversing slowly. That soon got changed, and the reverse diet, or what we know as the reverse diet protocol now, is a lot quicker, more rapid than that, but not as rapid as a recovery diet. But it's something like a reverse diet for a bikini athlete. As they come off show, you want to put them in a surplus, so you might bump their calories from their lowest they had to their reverse diet calories. It could be 500, 600, 800 calories more to start with, and then
Yeah, I think you Scott answered this in a lot of detail quite a few potties ago, but using myself as an example, there was just no need for me to be as lean as I was post-show, and obviously the down regulation of everything that you go through in prep was hitting pretty hard. So we went into quite a large surplus. To give you an example, if I was eating something like 23 or 2,400 calories, say the last couple of weeks of my show, pretty much went straight up to 3,800 calories. And the idea was I competed at about 76 kilos or 77 kilos, was to pretty much get me back up to about 81, within sort of 7 to 10 days, because of how lean I was. And there's just no need for me to be that lean anymore with the work that I do, how much I'm on my feet. So we went into, a recovery, which was putting on that sort of quick amount of composition. And then from there, slow things down and go through a proper reverse phase where we built things up gradually to get myself back to a point where my rate of gain was a lot slower than it was post-show. But that's the reason you'd use it. You use it for someone, as Trimboli said, who's super lean. It just doesn't need to be lean anymore, and you want to add some quick composition on. Again, it wasn't a free-for-all. It wasn't just eat whatever you want. No. That feels shit, right? And you don't want to see yourself and all that hard work go down the toilet. It's okay, we're going to go to these calories, these macros. We're going to put on 4 kilos in 10 days, and then we're going to peg things back. And again, like the amount of recovery I felt in that 10 days was phenomenal, right? Some of the changes that I felt. And then it really took me about 12 to 16 weeks. So the reverse diet after that, another sort of 6 to 8 weeks. And then another sort of 4 weeks post that until I felt my absolute self again. So along the way, you certainly have wins where you're like, I'm feeling way better, my energy's high, my strength's coming back up. But it was really somewhere between the 12 and 16 week mark post-show where I felt like me wholly again.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be interesting for me because I feel really good.
Yeah.
And like I feel like even at this the limits I've ever been, I feel really, really good. So
And then Pete, one of the things which we'll talk about on a podcast, because I was telling you boys this morning, right? I got my blood test back. I obviously did bloods right at my comp. And, I had a lot of markers that were like in the toilet, obviously free-flowing testosterone in the dumps, iron through the roof because I've got an iron disease, hemochromatosis, which some people know where your body just struggles to excrete iron. So it deposits it, in your organs and stuff. Here we got Evie on.
Yeah, we've got a special guest.
Here we have special guest Evie. Hi, Evie.
Hi, Evie.
Can you wave?
Good morning. Little Scotty. That should be the thumbnail.
Oh, that's the best.
That should be the thumbnail. But yeah, I got my bloods done again just last week, and obviously I said that it took me about 16 weeks to recover, and I'm past 16 weeks now. But it's the first time everything's pretty much back in a normal range. Iron's in a good place on the lower end, but back in a normal range. So it does take time for your body to recover, but I suppose the point of that is, that's why we go through these. That's why we would employ a recovery phase because, we're trying to get health markers back in a good spot as quick as we can. And as coaches, our job is to protect you as well. So yeah, both have a part to play. But again, MT said it depends on your level of conditioning as to which one you would need to employ.
Yeah. And the other thing sorry, I just wanted to jump in. I was listening as you guys were going. If you are super shredded and you do just try to reverse and you don't employ a recovery, you'll end up exactly where you would have been anyway because your body is smarter than you are. And eventually there will be a break. You'll end up having binging and essentially your body will find a way to force you to overconsume calories because your body will essentially start to shut down. So your endocrinology just goes to complete garbage. You'll feel horrendous. So despite you feeling good, like I know MT, you said you feel good now and you do, you'll feel like you feel 10 out of 10 now. You'll feel 30 out of 10. And then in 6 months' time, you'd be like, man, I was really in a bad way. I just didn't even know it because you just acclimate to that day-to-day life. So if you do try to reverse out, if MT tried to do that, there will come a point where the diet will break him and he'll end up, as disciplined as he is, there will be a point where he just overconsumes calories because his body needs food. That's Evie, yeah.
So I can't stay shredded all year round because I feel good, bro?
Unfortunately not. Well, maybe you could, but it would be a pretty sucky life unless you're going to perhaps engage in some pharmacal aid. But otherwise, there's just no need, man. You just want to get some fat mass. So let's say that you're 74. I'm assuming that your plan would be within the first 2 weeks to see some 78 kilo sort of action and then maybe even 79, depending on how you're feeling. The fact that you're feeling pretty good is one thing, but there's other markers you look at like libido, sleep quality, food focus.
So we're laughing guys. For those that are listening on Spotify, Evie's waving at me and Michael on the screen, so we're just all waving back at her. She's beautiful.
She's loving it. So eventually your body will find a way to get you to where you need to get to. But if you're a bikini competitor, then absolutely you just need to perhaps employ the reverse.
Yeah.
But if you're shredded, it won't work.
Meeb's obviously listening in the other room and she just sent me a text message. It says #dadboss because Scotty's on being dad.
Do you know what though? My clients are so good because my kids are in the gym all the time. They literally come into the gym, they go straight to my office. They take out their toy bag or they just sit in the chair and just take over. There's an iPad always there. They live their best life.
I think I saw Evie this morning sipping on some BCAAs. Was that?
Yeah, well, but this is the thing. They do. Do you know what's funny for breakfast? So have a listen to this in terms of calories. So when Harvey wakes up, he typically has about 300 mils of orange juice. Then he'll have 2, sometimes 3 pieces of toast with jam.
Wow.
Then they'll both have rice flakes with protein powder, normally creatine, and then strawberries. And there'll be about 20 grams of peanut butter in that. It'd be 700 to 800 calories just for breakfast.
They're eating more than me, bro.
Bro, man, I'm not even joking. I've clocked some days where he's nudged, I think it was like 2,400 calories, somewhere in that sort of range.
Wow.
It's granted, he's pretty big for a kid that's 3, but they just don't stop. Like all day, they just go.
What's he doing? What's he doing on Sunday? First time as a novice?
Do you know what's crazy, man? When you see them when they're just in there, like, with their clothes off, they've got this, like, they're both. If they love bodybuilding, that's awesome. They've got this great muscular architecture, the skeletal structure. They've got these little abs. Power. We're talking about power, yeah.
You love Powerhouse.
Yeah, no, it's good. So the diet will eventually it will get you. So either employ a recovery diet or reverse if your coach doesn't think you need to.
Let's do some light-hearted questions and then we'll leave it there because Evie's definitely still in the show.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Apologies.
And that if anyone's listening to our Spotify, definitely go and watch it on YouTube instead.
Yeah, watch it on YouTube. It's worth it.
It's definitely way better. So let's just do some rapid fire ones. Best bodybuilding rep range. Tell us, Scotty. You're the master. Best bodybuilding rep range.
Go quick.
Anywhere between 6 and 30.
6 and 30. Awesome.
A combination of all of the above. Ideally, you should have probably 3 sort of ranges. A little bit of that sort of, that 6 to sort of 8, as long as you're going within close proximity to failure, and then anywhere from 10 to sort of 15, and then maybe you might have 1 or 2 sort of really high volume sort of sets. Yeah.
And this is for you, and I want you to quote Cole on this one, the person that works for you. How important is intensity?
Yeah, so this is gold. So we're having this conversation the other day, and we're just talking about RPE and its place, and how RPE, I think, sometimes leaves people stopping short and leaving a little bit in the tank because it's like, was that a 7 or was that an 8? And I was sitting in the gym and MT said to Cole, who works with me, he said, What was your RPE for that set? And he said, RPE, what's that? I just go until I can't do anymore. And I'm like, man, you just literally rewrote the RPE scale.
Yeah, that's exactly what you got to do.
Like, stop leaving so many reps in the tank.
Intensity creates density.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a good one. Intensity creates density.
Mm-hmm.
What's better for muscle growth, compounds or isolations? And let's put it this way, right? Because the answer is both. But if you had to pick, Scotty, you weren't allowed to do anything but one. You had to pick compounds or isolations for like muscle growth and full physique development.
I'd pick compounds because you can hit 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. Like, let's say that you want to improve your chest, you could perform a bench press and you could, or say using a Smith machine, you could bias the chest. Pardon me. You could also bias the anterior head of the shoulder. You could also change the grip position and bias the triceps. So I feel like compound movements versus an isolation, I think you're typically going to be able to load that more as well. So the more stress that you can create to the tissue, the more, just come upstairs, Harvey. Sorry, I've got another one downstairs going crazy now.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay,
you told me.
Definitely
been told off.
I agree. I agree with compounds because you can change the variations in your grips and the way you do a compound to make it isolate.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm still listening. I'm just opening the stair gate. Sorry, man.
No, do what you got to do. And then we'll go to the next question, and then we'll probably leave it there so Scotty can be a dad and our podcast. Can vegans build muscle?
Of course.
Do you have any vegan athletes?
What's that?
Do you have any vegan athletes?
Absolutely, man. Got a handful. Yeah.
Are they building muscle or not?
They are 100% building muscle.
Thanks. Come on,
being a vegan doesn't mean that you can't build muscle. Does it come with its set of challenges as a bodybuilder? Yes. And the reason is this. The reason is because typically foods, being a vegan, that are high in protein are also high in carbs and potentially high in fats too.
And fiber.
Yeah, so if you're trying to stick within a range to achieve a specific body composition goal, it can be a little more challenging. But being a vegan does not stop you from building muscle. You just need to be smart about your intake. As a bodybuilder, potentially you may need to incorporate like some sort of vegan protein powder as well to help you hit your protein goal. But can it be done? 100%. It can be done. I reckon someone's watched the Game Changers recently. I reckon that's what that's.
Well, you got to think too, right? Building muscle, you need to be what? Calorie surplus, and progressing in your intensity and your density, right?
Yeah.
So, as long as you're in a surplus, having adequate amount of protein,
You're fine.
I reckon you can.
Again, the question's probably more: where is your RPE scale? Are you going to? You can't do it anymore. That's probably.
If you're
more
not building muscle,
vegan.
if you're a vegan and not building muscle, you're not. Yeah, you're not going hard enough.
I think it's the other thing as well with the protein side of it. If you are a vegan, just be mindful that you need to perhaps consume a mixed blend of protein sources, because obviously a lot of plant-based proteins aren't complete protein sources. So for example, someone that consumes an omnivorous diet, so they eat plant and protein, we get the best of both worlds. But if you are a vegan, then perhaps including like a soy and pea protein with a rice protein, because typically soy and pea proteins will usually be lower in methionine and they're higher in lysine versus rice proteins the other way around. So they'll be higher in methionine and lower in lysine. So you want to make sure that you're covering those bases so that you are, it's a zoo here, man, so that you are getting complete protein intakes. And obviously be mindful of your B vitamins as well, because they obviously they act as cofactor or as coenzymes as well. As coenzymes as well, which are really important for helping us actually break down and metabolize carbs, fats, and protein. Yeah, you've absolutely ruined this. You guys have just taken over.
Let's end it here and let Evie have the last word.
Go, Evie. What do you want to say?
What do you want to say? Please, that's good manners. What else do you want to say? Nothing else? Can you give a wave? Or do you want to blow a kiss to everyone? Blow a kiss?
Mwah, she's beautiful.
The best.
Hey, Harvey.
Yeah, nice. Harvey, say hi.
Mini Scotty. Hey.
Oh, wow, there he is, Mini Scotty.
Hi, Harvey.
Hey, Harvey.
Harvey, can you wave?
Yeah.
Can you give him a fist pump?
Team morale. Boom.
Boom.
That's it. That could be the next thumbnail.
Boom.
Boom. Go, Evie.
All right, guys. Apologies again.
Right.
I'm going to have to
Hey, this is the family podcast, man.
It's
Come
a
on.
family podcast.
That's it.
We're family friendly here.
That's it.
Love it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Have a good one,
All right,
guys.
lads. You too.
Thanks.
Speak soon, boys. Thanks, guys.
See you all
Say
soon.
bye, Evie. Bye.
Bye.